Okay, I'm recording and I'm going to make sure the screen works and then we'll start up the show. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, you can see everything happening here and I do the share. So Kalani, when you say come back on, you will see hopefully only one slide. Let me know.
Oh, you have to switch them.
I have to switch them. Okay, switching displays and we go here. Is this good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Then we're ready to go. Wait, am I recording? Can you see that I'm recording?
Yeah, you're recording.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
let's begin.
Oh, okay. So doors are open and we are live on social media.
Great. Aloha kako. This is our 34th episode of the ATUA, Polynesian Ancestors, Stars, and Temples, which is a series of Polynesian ancestral knowledge.
Yorana tatou patoa, bienvenue. 34e épisode de cette série de webinaires sur les ancêtres polynésiens, les étoiles et les temples. Et nous sommes très heureux de vous accueillir ce soir.
Tonight, we have Paul Moʻohono Niva, Professor Niva, who is going to finish up the story he was telling us last time on Raʻiātea temples. This is part 2. And today we go to Ararua, Vaearaʻi, and many exciting things.
Alors ce soir, c'est la continuation de la semaine dernière. Notre présentateur, intervenant archéologue Paul Moʻohono Niva, on l'appelle également Papa Tumu. Il sera également de la partie de cette soirée pour parler des marins qu'on trouve sur l'île de Raʻiātea, notamment Tainuʻu, Ararua et Vaearaʻi.
Okay. And of course, as we are waiting for people to come in and go online with us, we show our follow skies. Please tell us where you're coming in from. Okay, that is the end. Now, folks, we saw the constellation Manaya Kalani or Scorpio setting into the west. Yeah, it's going down into the west. Okay. Oh, no, that's what we're doing. And today is March 10th. I want you to know that you can tell your friends to come onto the Brent website, or you can go to Facebook Live at HSHK-UHM, which is Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge at UH Manoa, University of Hawaii Manoa. But we've got a new site for past videos now. Instead of the other one, the Vimeo site, we now have a Facebook site where you can type in this address exactly the way it is, and it will pop up with the most recent video. So webinar rather. So tonight's webinar will be on there tonight and tomorrow morning and the rest of all of our series. Okay. If you need more information, you write to me, Lilikalā@hawaii.edu.
Alors, juste comme vous voyez sur l'affiche, en fait, sur le diapo, les liens, bien sûr, pour ce direct, vous pouvez emmener à tous vos amis, à tous ceux qui seraient intéressés, mais également un nouveau lieu de pouvoir visionner les anciens webinaires. Alors, auparavant, on utilisait le Zoom comme endroit pour accueillir nos vidéos. Là, on a un nouveau site, c'est sur Facebook, tout simplement. Donc, vous pouvez voir que c'est facebook.com, après un diagonale, là, appelé c'est HSHKUHM, encore une autre en diagonale, et puis vidéo avec un S. Comme ça, vous pouvez visionner tous les 33 autres webinaires que nous avons déjà fait. Et ce soir également, celui de ce soir sera posté juste après.
Okay, and here we go to the next. So aloha kako, ina hoa hanau me na ho aloha. A Hawaii nui akea me no anu akiwa. Mai ka pi'i nā kala ma mauna tea o Rapanui. A ka nā po o ana kala ma te tai o Rehua o Aotearoa. Aloha. Aloha to all of our cousins and friends of the Polynesian Triangle, from the rising of the sun in the east at Mauna Tea to the setting of the sun in the west at the Sea of Rehua of Aotearoa. Aloha.
Alors, bienvenue à tous nos amis, nos cousins du triangle polynésien. À l'est, vous avez le manga Teatea de Rapanui, jusqu'à l'ouest, la mer de Rehua de Aotearoa. Tout le monde au milieu, tous au nord, au sud, un peu partout. On souhaite vous tous le bienvenue ici sur le webinaire 34e épisode.
Right. Before we begin our discussion of Polynesian ancestral knowledge, I would like to thank and honor Gladys Kalani Brent, from whom our Center for Hawaiian Studies is named. It was her vision and her bequest to the Brent Fund at the UH Foundation that allows us to support the work of the Brent Chair for Comparative Polynesian Studies. I have a special oli to dedicate to Auntie Gladys and to my mom, Catherine Leilani Lee.
Comme c'est la tradition, on pourrait dire, avant toute discussion sur ce webinaire, cette plateforme, nous voulons rendre hommage à Gladys Kalani Brent, celle que vous voyez à l'image sur le diapo à gauche. Son nom, bien sûr, est le nom du Centre des études hawaïennes à l'Université de Hawaï. Et grâce à sa vision, elle a mis en place une fondation qui s'appelle Brent Fund avec l'Université de Hawaï Foundation. Et ce soutien, bien sûr, pour les études études comparatives polynésiennes, dont Lilikalā est le chair, qui est le président, et elle va dédier à Auntie Gladys ainsi qu'à sa maman, Catherine Leilani, ce oli que vous allez entendre tout de suite.
Yeah. The oli is called Eia Hawaii Nui Akea, composed by Kumu John Lake, who taught for many years at the Kalani Center for Hawaiian Studies. Hawaii Nui Akea means the breadth and width of Hawaii, and Kumu Lake said it was also an old name for Polynesia, and that is what this chant is all about. It includes Raʻiātea, where Professor Moʻohono Niva is from.
Alors, ce chant, le oli, est composé par le Kumu John Lake, qui a enseigné pendant plusieurs années au Centre des études hawaïennes à l'université. Et le chant, le oli, s'appelle Hawaii Nui Akea, c'est-à-dire l'étendue et la largeur de Hawaï. Mais par rapport à Kumu, il disait que c'est un vieux nom pour la Polynésie, tout simplement. Et voilà, et cette chanson parle de la Polynésie.
Yeah. And for those of you who know, come with me. Eia Hawaii Nui Akea. Eia Hawaii Nui Akea, Hawaii Nui, Hawaii Loa, Hawaii Poko, Hawaii Luna, Lalo, Iloko, Kamawana o Kanalo, ai. Ue Kalani, ne kahonua, ne kahonua, ola I kahonua, o ola kahonua. Uo kawairua o tuhuna, o paake ka nakamali, he moriora. I wanted to show you this map. Many of us in Hawaii don't know where Raʻiātea is. We maybe have heard of Tahiti, but I want to show you that Tahiti, you fly into Tahiti, but Raʻiātea is right next to it. And look how far we are away in Hawaii.
Alors, voici une carte pour tous ceux qui ne savent pas où se trouve l'île de Raʻiātea. Alors, c'est à nord-ouest de l'île de Tahiti, à peu près 200 km. Et comme vous voyez, une grande distance comparée à où se trouve Lilikalā, qui est bien sûr l'archipel des îles hawaïennes.
Okay. And here is an old map someone gave me one time when I was in Raʻiātea. I like to show it because it has so many beautiful place names. But I was told, and I learned it that the old name for Raʻiātea is Hawaii. So our Hawaii island comes to the old name of Raʻiātea.
Alors, voici une carte de l'île de Raʻiātea. En fait, tu vois l'île de Raʻiātea l'île de Taha'a, qui partagent le même lagon, sur la ceinture de corail autour. Alors, l'ancien nom de Raʻiātea, c'est Hawaii. Et c'est bien sûr le nom que nous connaissons sur place, et que certainement les îles hawaïennes sont nommées après ce mot Hawaii.
Oh, so today now we're going to have Professor Niva tell us all about Tainuʻu, Ararua, Vaearaʻi, and Hiro will be translating for us into the English because Professor Niva will be speaking in French and sometimes in Tahitian, but Hironui will tell us in English. I'm going to just drop out. I may press the button sometime if we need it, but can you, Moʻohono, can you share, can you press button 2 or Kalani, can we allow him to take over the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes, Dad.
Control.
Okay.
I just wanted to apologize for not being visible this evening. You can hear me, but you won't see me. I am in Huahine, and so I'm studying and filming the Mara of Maiva tomorrow. And so to keep a nice fluid connection, I've decided not to put video. So for those of you who wanted to see my face, sorry, I'm just kidding. But I just wanted to welcome Hiriata Brotherson Timatatayo from Tahiti. Also, and Moʻohono has some friends, Seizi and Jan from Maine, USA. Christine Duchateau, our faithful, she's always here. Vaearaʻi, Christine. And to all of you who are visiting or watching us from everywhere, welcome to our webinaire. Encore un grand merci à Lilikalā, l'organisation de ce webinaire, 34e épisode. Juste un petit coucou à tous nos amis qui nous rejoignent, qui ont laissé un petit message. Pauline Reynolds d'Australie, par Norfolk Island. Hiriata Broderson de Tahiti. Seizi and Jan de Maine, des connaissances de Moʻohono, de notre intervenant. Et Christine Duchateau, merci d'avoir laissé un petit message. And so, yes, here we go. We're ready to go. Moʻohono Niva, Papatumu. The stage is yours.
Ah.
C'est à toi.
Comment je fais alors? Je partage l'écran?
Là, tu as l'écran. Tu as la main mise sur l'écran. Tu peux.
OK. Donc, je dois voir mon bureau?
Là, on voit juste la présentation.
Oh,
Non,
mince.
Non.
Attends.
Il faut que tu te mets sur ton site. Voilà.
OK. Voilà.
Voilà. Alors, tu peux mettre ton plein écran.
Ouais.
Ça. Voilà.
Maintenant. OK.
And so, for those of you who don't know, our archaeologist, Moʻohono Professor Niva, he's alive from the atoll of Tiki Stone, which in 1987 was visited by the commander Jacques Cousteau and declared Tiki Stone Lagoon to be having the highest hundreds of fish in the world. What does that mean? Apparently, it has a lot of fish. That's what you can see. And next to Moʻohono is his faithful cats.
On va commencer parce que ça va, Hiro? Tu m'entends?
Oui.
Donc, on s'était arrêté à Pauauri et Pauatea. Donc, c'est les personnes qui ont qui ont construit le marais et qui ont mis en place le tambour, le Pahu Taimoana, qui va être, on le sait, la parole de Dieu.
Okay, so here we have the people, the Pa'auri and Pa'atea. They are the ones that constructed the marae of Tapuatea. And they brought along the drum called Taimoana, will be, of course, the voice of the gods.
Et lorsque non seulement ils vont amener il y a aussi le Dieu.
Yeah, not only are they bringing the drum, but he's also bringing the god.
Have we lost connection?
Did we lose? Can you hear me? Am I still on? As apparently
Moʻohono.
Moʻohono froze, according to what I saw.
Okay. Well, we folks, we know that this is happening. He had to go out and come back in again. Yes. Can you folks, should I share my screen?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Until he's back on.
Is he back on?
No, not yet.
Okay, when he comes back, we'll stop. I'll just take it forward to where he was speaking about. And
Ok,
we'll,
alors, nous allons attendre le retour de Moʻohono. Apparemment, nous avons perdu sa connexion. Et pour ceux qui n'étaient pas là la semaine dernière, on va faire une petite revue de ce qu'on avait vu la semaine dernière. So yeah, we can briefly go over what we went through last week, and you know, while waiting for Moʻohono.
oh, okay, shoot.
So you have to share it the other way as we see the background.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry. Folks, we're still learning our technology here. Yes. Uh-huh. Come on, come back to me. I can't get to the other screen. Why is that? Okay, I stopped sharing for a second.
Okay.
Technical difficulties, my friends. Where I'm at in Hawaii, we lost electricity.
He's back on. Moʻohono is back.
Okay.
Yorana.
Warana. Can you hear us, Paul? You have to unmute yourself, Paul. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Oh.
Kalani, do you see?
I need to mute my. Is it good?
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Perfect. You have to
Okay.
move. You have to go back a few slides.
Ok, donc je te disais que ça c'est le wharetupapau. Ici on a un exemple en haut d'un wharetupapau dessiné par les premiers circumnavigateurs. C'est celui de Vaearaʻi. Donc il faut penser que là c'était couvert et que le corps était exposé sur cette zone-là.
Okay, so this is on the site of Tipua in Opua, near the Raʻiātea, actually adjacent to the Raʻiātea, is this rock structure you see at the image. And so you have an illustration by one of the earlier navigators, of a wharetupapau in the top left-hand corner. So there's a grass, I guess a rooftop with maybe coconut fronds or something like that. But you can see the body is laid, of the defunct is laid there. And so here you see actually today, if you go to Tapuatea, you will see this particular structure, and just imagine a roof on top of it. And of course, the body of the defunct is being laid on these rock structure.
La photo qu'on a, c'est le chef de Tahiti, Vaearaʻi.
So the high chief of Vaearaʻi of ATUA, or we would say the almost island of Tahiti, we call Tahiti Iti. That is that illustration of his funeral.
Donc le corps était exposé et ensuite il y avait une personne qui faisait attention, qui prenait soin du corps, qui lui ointait de bois de santal.
Okay. And so they preserve the body with sandalwood and an ointment, like or an oil made with sandalwood to preserve the body. Of course, the body was exposed for I'm not too sure how long. Combien de temps est-ce que le corps était laissé exposé?
Et le processus pouvait durer 1 an.
Wow. So apparently, one procedure could last up to 1 year of having the body exposed.
Au fait, quand un hari il mourait, on l'exposait, c'est parce que tous ceux avec qui il avait eu des liens, il faut que ces liens soient enlevés pour que son corps puisse partir. Sinon, il va toujours errer dans le monde des vivants. C'est pour ça qu'on appelle tupapau.
And so the body would have to be laid there until all of his lineage comes to release him, to let him go. So it might take a long time, because if not, the soul will be wandering around, and we call it a tupapau, these wandering souls, these ghosts. So these souls will be flying around and will not be released because their lineage didn't come to release them.
Donc, tout ça, c'est un processus. Quand le corps est décomposé, c'est à ce moment-là qu'on emmène dans la vallée de Opua, à l'intérieur des grottes.
So when the procedure is finished, of course, the body is decomposed, and what's left remains, or what we call the iwi, the bones. Then they were taken to a site that is, of course, a secret site, and hidden into maybe caves inside of the mountain or some other special places that only the priests would know.
Voilà, et ces grottes-là que j'ai vues, d'ailleurs, là, ça se trouve souvent au-dessus de Vaearaʻi.
In Raʻiātea, as you can see, there is another, mara structure called Vaearaʻi. It's in the Valley of Opua, near the mountainside. And in logical sense, of course, the high chiefs will be buried next to the marae, up into the mountainside where there's caves.
Ce qui nous amène sur le marais des Tamatoa, le marais des Ariʻi.
And so this brings us to the other marae. We saw last week the marae of Tapuatea that everybody knows about. But right next to it, I would say perpendicular, and it's in how it's structured, to Tapuatea is the marae of Tamatoa. The Tamatoa clan of the high chiefs.
Le marais selon différentes versions, c'est les 8 chefs de Raʻiātea que j'avais montré la semaine dernière se rassembler sur ce marais de Hauviri et introniser le Tamatoa, d'où le nom des Tamatoa, le marais des Tamatoa.
So this is I guess you could say, where the Tamatoa will be, enthroned by the 8 chiefs of the island of Raʻiātea. So they would give the Tamatoa title name as the high chief, be chosen, and they would come in and their procedure ceremonies on this mara, the mara we call of Hauviri, which is right next to the water.
Il ne prend que le nom de Hauviri lorsqu'on introduit les Tamatoa.
And the mara, of course, takes on the name of Hauviri when we introduce the Tamatoa.
Mais dans l'ancien temps, ce marais s'appelait Nau.
But in ancient times, this mara was called No.
Il était appelé aussi Ahutaʻi.
Another name is Ahutaʻi.
Et l'autre nom, un peu difficile à dire, c'est Tinirau Huimata Te Papa o Whioro.
And the other name, also known as Tinirau Huimata
Papa o Whioro. Tous ces noms sont très importants pour comprendre le mécanisme d'évolution de ce marais. Il va s'appeler aussi Vaearaʻi. C'est son dernier nom.
And you have to know all these names because it'll give you insight on, I guess you could say, the evolution, or maybe even say the genealogy of the marae. And its last name that we'll take was Vaeutaha, which of course is another marae found on the island of Bora Bora. So understanding that those of Bora Bora came and took control of her and gave it the name.
Donc je vais faire le pari-pari de ce marais.
And so now we will listen to Moʻohono say the pari-pari, which is an oral tradition, an oral oratory art of describing a place or a very important site of the land.
Manava ya uto te naura mai inia te tahua o te pihia tinira hui mata te papa o Whioro o ia o nono vai o ta o Tapuatea ia. Donc ça, c'était le pari-pari de ce marais. On voit là la succession des noms de ce marais dans le chant.
In the chant, in the pari-pari, the oratory art of describing a place, you see the names that the place had in the past until the present. So in the pari-pari, if you listen well, you can find out all the different names a particular place has or has had in the past until today.
La pierre qu'on voit ici, c'est Papatia Yaruia.
the name of the stone erected in the middle of the marae site of the marae Tamatoa is called Papa Raʻiātea Ruea.
C'est la pièce, cette pierre-là représente la fille du chef Puna qui habite dans la vallée.
Okay, this stone is representative of the daughter of a high chief who lived in the valley.
Elle s'appelait Papa Uamea Yaruea.
Her name is Papa Uamea Ruea.
Et elle était mariée avec Ararua Tetumu qui vont fonder le marais sous le nom de Nono.
And she was married to Ta'arua Tumu, and together they placed the foundation of this particular marae.
Leurs enfants vont régner sur cette zone-là.
And their children will be, of course, the rulers of these lands.
Beaucoup plus tard, il y aura un chef qui va arriver et qui va s'appeler Moʻohono, qu'on voit ici le nom.
And later, sometime later, another chief would come, and his name will be Moʻohono Vaearaʻi.
Vaearaʻi, il venait de Bora Bora. Hein?
And of course, the Vaearaʻi name means that this particular chief came from the island of Bora Bora.
Alors, ici, on a la première origine, comme j'ai dit, Ta'arua Tetumu avec Nono et Ahutai Terai. Ici, on dit dans la deuxième phrase, Wa'ahu o Moʻohono Vaearaʻi. Donc, il reconstruit le marais de Nono qui devient Vaearaʻi.
So, and you can see the origins, of course, the evolution from Ta'arua Tetumu, now, as you mentioned, Ahutai Terai, to Wa'ahu o Moʻohono Vaearaʻi.
Qui veut dire, évidemment, construire.
That means to build.
Et c'est là que les dieux qu'on voit ici en les taureaux apparaissent, quoi. Hein?
And it's from that time on that you see the unveiling of the to'o, as you can see there, representative of the god in particular that is of this marae. There could be other gods as well, but the chief had one particular god that he would honor. And his representation, as you can see, weaving of nape alongside with probably a very, very important strong wood made of miro or something like that, carved into
Aito,
as we mentioned last time. Aito, which is like a redwood, not very strong and heavy. And of course, you would have this representation that would be about 1 meter long. Everybody, 1 mètre?
1 mètre 20. 1 mètre 20.
1 meter 20 centimeters high.
Ce qui nous amène à l'évolution de ce marais des différents noms, hein, qu'on voit ici, hein, de Taputapuatea, de tout Taputapuatea.
Okay, and so here you can see the evolution in the names, of course, and of course the names meaning different rulers or different chiefs coming to the marae. And here you have, of course, the different marae, the different names, and of course the ATUA that was being honored on each marae, and of course who was at the origin of it.
Et donc ça, on part de Nono jusqu'à Taputapuatea quand les prêtres Pawauri et Pawaetea sont venus. Ensuite, il y a encore Oro qui vient, donc celui de ceux de Bora Bora. Et ensuite, Ramauriri encore qui arrive. Je pense que lui aussi, il venait de Bora Bora. Hein?
So you can see the different names that was given to the marae. And of course, who were the rulers at that time that were given. You can see the priests of Pa'awiri, Uri and Pa'atea, Taputapuatea. And of course, from Bora Bora, we just mentioned Vaearaʻi. And lastly, honoring the god Hiro, we have Ra'amauriri, also named Hiro, and we believe that he's also from Bora Bora.
Donc, ce qui nous amène à vérifier un peu, à observer le territoire de Opua. On observe qu'au bord de la mer, il y a 3 Ati qui vont se succéder, alors qu'en montagne, il y a un seul Ati.
So Ati is like a clan, is named for Nati, as you can see the Maori Ati is also found in Haitian word, and there will be 3 succession of 3 clans of Ati, Ta'arua, Oro, and Hiro. That is more on the ocean side. But unchanged from all of this is the mountain side or the valley side, which is Ati Puna, remains the same.
Mais eux, ils ne vont jamais changer, ils seront toujours présents malgré les changements sur le littoral.
Mhm. And so according to them, they never change. They always remain. Those in the ocean or near the ocean will change frequently.
Donc, on dit que le marais de Hauviri, hein, on dit que cette pierre, Papatea Yaruia, qui est donc la fille du chef Puna, et on dit que c'est ça la pierre fondatrice de tous les marais des îles de la Société.
Oh, and according to the understanding of this, this is the foundation stone of all the civilizations and clans in the Isles of Society, the Society Archipelago, meaning the Windward and Leeward Islands. This would be the foundation stone of this civilization.
Donc, cette pierre-là venait d'ici, de Atipuna, de cette vallée-là.
And he believes, and of course, this is, as a matter of fact, according to the research, that the stone that is erected in the Mara of Tamatoa or Hauviri came or originated from the Valley of Opua, of course, ruled by the Yati clan Puna.
C'est pour ça, dans les îles, la société, lorsqu'on veut être un Hari, il est important qu'on trace sa généalogie sur Hauviri, parce que c'est là qu'il y a la pierre fondatrice de tous les marais.
Mm-hmm. And so if you wanted to be a prominent chief, your lineage would have to trace back to this particular spot or this place, especially the Mara of Hauviri, where the foundation stone exists. So all of those in the Windward Islands or Leeward Islands who wanted to be high chiefs, according to that, would have to have their genealogy traced all the way back to here.
C'est comme cela que Pomare Ier est devenu Harinui de Tahiti.
And that is how Pomare, who was a small chief under the rule of Tutaha when Cook arrived, after he became the high chief of Pare Nui and of course of all Tahiti, representing, because his genealogy on his mother's side would be traced back to this place of Hauviri.
Et c'est le nom de sa maman, elle s'appelait Tetupaya I Hauviri I Taputapuatea.
And the name of his mother is Tetupaya I Hauviri Taputapuatea. So then, exactly when you look at the genealogy, it traces him back to the foundation stone. So he had more noble blood.
Et c'était lui le représentant du dieu Oro.
And he was the bloodline of representing, of course, the god Oro.
On a prospecté dans cette vallée, on a trouvé que ici, les structures archéologiques sont séparées en deux zones. Une en montagne et une en vallée et une en littoral.
C'est 3 ou 2? Parce que là, tu as dit 3.
On a prospecté ici, on a trouvé à peu près 300 et quelques structures sur tout le territoire. Hein?
Wow.
Mais la plupart, c'est dans la vallée et pas sur le littoral.
Okay. And so if you have a scale down to things, the site of, you could see at the tip of the peninsula of we call Te Po, that is about maybe 300 yards, 400 yards across. So you can see the extent of the valley going all the way up to the mountain. And you would find most of the structures in the valley and just one small area on the ocean side. So much more important when it comes to archaeological structures found in the valley here, what we call today Opua.
Ça nous amène à oh wow, je me suis trompé là. Oh wow, le marais. Oh non. Attends. Hein?
Go back.
Voilà. J'ai perdu l'image du marais de Vaearaʻi. Je ne sais pas où j'ai mis. Attends.
No.
Ah voilà. Ça nous amène, quand on a prospecté, c'est là qu'on a trouvé le marais de Vaearaʻi. Elle était dans la vallée.
Okay. And so there is probably the most important mara in all of maybe Raʻiātea, but especially for the zone of Opua, where you have more than 300 structures, you have the mara of Vaearaʻi, as you can see by yes.
Et appelé aussi Raʻimaruarua.
And the other name of this site or this archaeological mara is called Raʻimaruarua.
Donc, Vai, ça veut dire pied, Raʻi qui vient du ciel. Raʻi, ciel, tombé du ciel. C'est toujours le même nom. Hein?
So Vaearaʻi is the foot placed the one coming from the sky, Raʻia, from the skies, from the heavens. And the same thing, Raʻi Maruarua, means that the foot came from the sky.
Oui, ma quête, mon chat, il m'emmerde là. Mon chat, il m'emmerde là.
According to oral traditions, Ta'arua Tuma placed his foot on this land, and that is where they erected the first marae.
Donc, Ta'arua, il casse le ciel avec son pied, il met le ciel, Maruarua, tout tombe, et donc il met son pied. C'est l'unique endroit où il y a un pied d'un dieu se pose.
And so this is the only place in all oral tradition where the God's foot is placed on the land.
Donc, il n'y a aucun autre endroit qu'un dieu pose son pied à part Opua.
No other place you will find a God putting his foot on the ground, except for this place here in Opua.
Donc, c'est un marais un peu spécial. C'est 3 marais. On voit ici, hein, il y en a une grande ici avec une grosse pierre dressée ici et 2 autres ici. On dit que c'est ce que j'ai appelé la structure du 49. C'est ici que le Tamatoa 3 a été intronisé.
So, as you can see, it's three marae placed adjacent to one another. And you have the longer one and with a very high big stone that you could find today. But then in the back structure, as you mentioned, in the zone they call SC49, Moʻohono believes that this is where the Tamatoa will become king.
Parce que dans la légende, on dit que Tamatoa 3 fut intronisé sur Vaearaʻi et des pierres de corail ont été posées. Et c'est l'unique structure où on trouve cela.
And according to the theory, that when the Tamatoa would become king, they will bring stones of coral stones that would be placed. And of all the structures, you would find coral stones only in this area. So the tradition comes to reality as archaeologists find these coral stones in this area.
Donc, j'ai fait une datation au carbone 14. On est arrivé ici, on a trouvé vers le 1700, c'est 1700.
And so they did a carbon dating experiment, and they found that the stones that were placed there dating back in the 1600s to early 1700s.
Donc, c'est un marais qui est très, très important. C'est pour ça qu'on a marais Erefenua, parce que c'est des marais fondamentaux.
And so, because of its date, but also because of its location, this is called a mare ere. These are called foundation marae of the land. So ere means dark in the translation, literal translation, but in its significance or symbolism, it is the foundation marae.
Question, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Can we go back to the last one? I wanted to ask Moʻohono, in the structure that is long, that you're standing on, I think, is that north-south? Is that wall that faces the picture, is that wall north-south?
Non. Alors, le positionnement du marais, la structure a été alignée avec nord-sud. No, it actually is facing towards...
Le nord-sud est aligné là, ici.
So you can see in the diagonal, the north and south is aligned this way.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe it's a diagonal. Looking at it, maybe.
C'est là le nord-sud. Hein? À partir de Vaearaʻi, 5 marais ont été construits.
Wow. So from marae, which is the Vaearaʻi, which is the foundation marae, 5 other marae were built. And question, tu dis de ce marais, ça veut dire qu'il y a une pierre du marais de Vaearaʻi qui fait partie des autres marais?
Non, une pierre du marais de Vaearaʻi a été prise pour construire les autres marais.
Voilà, c'est ce que je veux dire. Okay, so for it to be linked to the foundation marae, a stone from the foundation marae will be part of the structure of the new building of the new marae, which, as you can see here, are located in Bora Bora and other parts of Raʻiātea.
Donc, ce qui est important quand on voit dans ce processus, Vaearaʻi aurait été construit à partir de Vaearaʻi.
So Vaearaʻi, as we mentioned earlier, where we saw the foundation stone, yeah, of all the civilizations, the stone will be coming from Vaearaʻi, from the valley, to the ocean side.
Et donc, il y a aussi à Fatah, on appelle aussi Tapu-Tapuatea à Uturua, hein, un autre morais Tapu-Tapuatea, ici à Fatah, qui a été construit aussi de Vaearaʻi.
Okay, and there's another Tapu-Tapuatea, which is located in the village of Uturua on the north side of Raʻiātea. As you can see, the purple image going towards that. Yeah. So once there's a stone from Vaearaʻi that was brought to build another Tapu-Tapuatea on the ocean front in the north side of the island of Raʻiātea.
Et deux vont être amenés à Tapu-Tapuatea sur le marais de, je pense, c'est Hauvili, puisque ça s'appelle Vaearaʻi aussi.
Mm-hmm. And so they will bring the stones back to Hauvili, or to Hauvili, because of course, Vaearaʻi is the name of that valley as well.
C'est à partir de là aussi quand une pierre arrive là, qu'il y a le premier tamatua qui apparaît aussi, il s'appelle Tamatua Teraitua-Tini.
And that's from there you would find the first Tamatua Teraitua-Tini.
Et le cadet, il va s'appeler Vaearaʻi Tetua Maopu Mahuata.
And of course in green, and then it would become Vaearaʻi Tetua Maopu Mahuata.
Ce qui nous amène à cette généalogie qui est très intéressante, la généalogie de Vaearaʻi. Hein?
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, please understand that Moʻohono has done his thesis on the Tapu-Tapuatea, and of course, his thesis was based on research on genealogy chants. And here we are going to see the genealogy chant to understand better the significance of Tamatua and Tapu-Tapuatea.
Donc cette généalogie, elle commence par Ararua qui épouse tout Tahiti, et leur enfant, on voit, c'est Tainuʻu qui est l'arc-en-ciel.
And so it starts with, as you can see, Ararua Tahiti Tainuʻu. So Tainuʻu is the rainbow. So that's the first.
Là, c'est le premier enfant, et il y aura 4-5 générations avant que n'apparaissent les chefs, les Ari'i.
Okay, and so there won't be another 5 generations before you find the first names of the first Ari'i, or the first chiefs.
On a Teraitua-Tini.
So one of them is earlier. His name was Teraitua-Tini, who was named also Tamatua. And
Tetua Maopu Mahuata.
And the other is Tetua Maopu Mahuata. He's at Vaitaha, at the same place.
Et j'insiste sur le dernier, c'est qui est Atoro Iterai de Porapora.
And Atoro Iterai from Porapora is the last one there.
Il est très important parce que lui, c'est lui le navigateur.
Oh yes, so Atoro Itereng is a name of a navigator, which we find, of course, in oral traditions of the Maori people. They talk about.
Au fait, la généalogie, elle est construite de cette manière. Au départ, il y a les mythes.
So he's the one explaining to understand the genealogy chants. It all starts from the mythical first.
Ensuite, à un moment, on va désacraliser la généalogie avec les Ari'i, qui vont être les intermédiaires entre les dieux et les humains.
And so then, of course, from the mythical world, you have this intermediate stage between the myth and reality, I guess, the human world. And that's where the Ari'i are placed. So we call it desacralization of the Ari'i is that particular, I guess you could say, phase.
Alors, la phase qui est inscrite dans la généalogie, c'est simple. C'est Teraivetea, donc l'espace, qui se mélange avec la terre. Anne Uifenua s'appelle sa femme. Ils vont ensuite avoir les enfants.
Okay, and so there you have a mixture between the land and the heavens, and together they would bring out about children. So
Et c'est ça le. Donc, Anne Oifenua et Teraivetea Ari'i se copulent et ils ont les premiers Ari'i, donc vraiment les représentants de ces dieux qui sont ces fameux chefs qu'on voit ici.
Yeah, so from that union of the heavens and the land comes the first of the kings, or the Ari'i.
Et ensuite, les hommes apparaissent que lorsque les chefs vont rester avec des femmes du peuple.
And of course, they would lose that sacredness because they will then have children with women of the land or the people.
Pour avoir étudié au moins une vingtaine de généalogies.
So this is all research from 20 different genealogies.
Les généalogies sont à peu près construites de cette manière. Mythe, on désacralise et arrivent les humains.
And so when you look at the genealogy, it always starts with the myth and then desacralization until you get to human.
Hop. Ça nous amène à...
I have a question. We have a question. Come back.
Pardon.
No,
Derrière?
C'était par rapport aux chefs, là. C'était une question par rapport aux différents. Parce que Atoro et Tirangi, and so my question was, of course, you listed those chiefs' names, of course, and they were the part of the chiefs that were desacralized, if I understand that correctly. Yeah? And so Atoro Itirai is the chief navigator you mentioned, right? And is this a succession of chiefs, one after the other, or you just say you have 5 chiefs that appear at the same time? Alors la question se pose, est-ce que c'est une succession des chefs qu'on voit là, ou Atoro Itirai était le dernier, ou est-ce que ils apparaissent tous à peu près le même temps?
C'est des frères de toute manière, hein? Mais ce qui est important, dans la généalogie, c'est pas de dire, c'est pas de faire qui est le rôle. Chacun a une fonction. Et Raʻiātea, c'est le 1. Faut pas oublier que la société, c'est la primogéniture qui compte. Hein? Et donc, c'est Raʻiātea qui est le plus important. Natoro Itirai, c'est le navigateur.
Okay.
Tu vois ce que je veux dire, hein?
Yeah, so this is not a lineage of succession. This is actually 5 brothers who all came at the same time. And according to, there's a hierarchy in the brothers, and Te Raʻiātea, who has, of course, Tamatoa and Taputapuata, is the most important of them all. Each had a particular function. And understanding the function, you understand that Atoro Itirai was a navigator chief. Okay. Te Fatutira. Oh, Tiri. I'm sorry, I thought it was Fatutira. No, sorry, it's Fatutiri. Okay.
Fatutiri. C'est lui qui construit le Taputapuatea de Uturua. Fatutiri, papa.
And it makes sense because it's the son of Ma'i.
Voilà,
so,
c'est Fatutiri.
Yeah. And yeah, that's my genealogy right there. Just wanted to say that.
Ok. mais une des questions que j'ai vues la semaine dernière, c'était sur la dualité, évidemment, et on m'avait demandé la dualité sur les Mahou. Hein?
And so there was a question last week, because we talked about duality a lot, you know, and so there was a question about Mahu, of course, a person that has both of them within them.
Attention, quand je parle de dualité dans l'ancienne société, c'est les éléments toujours tangibles, hein? Et je vais venir après pour expliquer le rôle de chacun.
Okay, and so when he talks about duality, it's a tangible. It's what's tangible. That's I guess you could say.
Voilà. La dualité d'aujourd'hui des Occidentaux ou de ce qu'on nous apprend à l'école du Mahou, ça ne rentre pas dans ce contexte. Hein. Il ne faut pas mélanger.
Okay, so it's not the same context of duality when he talks about Mahou.
Le problème de la dualité dans la société tahitienne, c'est quand tu as la gémellité. Les jumeaux. La gémellité, les jumeaux. Ce qu'on appelle les jumeaux.
Oh, okay. So the concept of duality comes when you have actually twins.
Regardez dans cette généalogie, chacun a une fonction.
Okay, and as you can see, each name represents a function.
Et au fait, quand on a la gémellité, quand on a les jumeaux, on a un problème. C'est là que ils trouvent qu'il y a un problème, les prêtres, parce que chaque homme avait une fonction dans la société quand il naissait. Il était préparé bien avant sa naissance.
And so, yeah, each man who would be born, of course, he had his function already predetermined accordingly. And when you have that problem of duality, how do you explain that, or how do you give the function, 2 different functions to the same person?
Et c'est là le problème maintenant de la dualité. C'est là où souvent, c'est pour ça qu'on a des pierres, des jumeaux, ou même Papa Teiarua, des fois, il s'appelle Papa Unameha, des deux frères. Et on a un problème de dualité quand c'est des jumeaux qui vont naître et qui vont avoir la même fonction. Parce qu'on ne sait pas comment classifier les jumeaux.
Yeah, so twins will cause a problem in regards to this particular structure of giving, in a sense, a title, a function in society. Because if they were born together, two people would have the same function, and that doesn't go well. And so that's when we're talking about duality. It's more about function, not about I guess you're saying gender.
Yeah. OK. Et je voulais vraiment répondre à cette question parce que j'ai vu qu'on n'est pas sur le genre, hein, et de toute manière, c'est un comportement, hein, le gender, hein, c'est un comportement. Soit tu veux devenir homme, soit tu veux devenir femme. Hein. Yes, Lilikalā.
What are the functions of these 5 brothers?
Oh, the first one is tamatoa. Hein?
Yep.
The second one is he carry Vaearaʻi. He carry, comment on appelle ça, le marotea. Hein? The first one, he has the maroura. The second one, he has the marotea. And the last one is, I know he's a navigator. And
En français? You speak French? And then
vas-y, traduis.
Oui, alors, la question, bien sûr, c'était le rôle, quelles sont les fonctions. Alors, bien sûr, Tamatoa, il portait le maroura, le maro rouge. Vaearaʻi, bien sûr, celui qui était Maupu Mahuata, lui, portait le maro jaune, marotea. Voilà. Après, dernière fonction, c'est celui de Atoroitiri, bien sûr. On le sait, c'est un navigateur. Et bien sûr, les Maoris confirment, c'est un grand navigateur de Raʻiātea qui a visité, bien sûr, Aotearoa. Par contre, Te Fatu Tiri et Te Tua ou Te Fatu, voilà, on n'est pas certain, c'est ça?
Moi, à mon avis, c'est eux qui construisent aussi des marais. À mon avis, c'était des spécialistes là où ils étaient, des spécialistes de la construction de marais, de quelque chose de toute manière.
And the chiefs 3 and 4, they would build structures, ahu, they would build marais, and they all specialize in a particular construction. So that's what Moʻohono believes in.
Okay. Donc, chacun a une fonction dans la vie. Hein? D'ailleurs, moi, je suis archéologue.
I just wanted to say welcome to our friend Romy Taveaʻi, who's joining us from Hawaii. And he just wanted to mention that the Marea Fatah is in the land part of Punamoe in Uturoa. Of course, that's where we were, yeah. Voilà, c'est juste pour dire un grand bonjour à notre ami Romy Taveaʻi qui nous apporte un peu d'informations concernant le Marea de Fatah qui se trouve bien sûr sur, plus à l'intérieur, le site de Punamoe à Uturoa. Maruru.
On continue? Ça nous amène directement sur le marais de Tainuʻu.
Okay, so from Vaearaʻi, you go, of course, that's in the southern part of Raʻiātea, where Taputapuatea is, of course. And if you go up the coast on the west side, you would find this very big, maybe one of the biggest in Raʻiātea, and it is the Marea of Tainuʻu.
Et évidemment, même architecture que Taputapuatea, corail et basalte.
And so you would find similitudes, of course, similarities between the Marea of Taputapuatea and the Marea of Tainuʻu. Of course, these very large rocks that erected made both of basalt rocks and coral rocks.
Ce marais est plus grand que Taputapuatea.
And this is actually bigger than Taputapuatea.
Donc, dans le même, on se tient, dans le même que Taputapuatea, on se tient sur le côté ouest, en face l'est. Ici, sur Tainuʻu, on se tient sur la côte est et en face l'ouest. Et le soleil est juste en face du Ahu. Se couche.
So, as in Taputapuatea being on the east side of Raʻiātea, it's facing west. And Tainuʻu being on the west side is facing east.
Non, je veux dire, Johan,
that's what you said.
Tu te mettais sur la place, mais tu regardais le coucher de soleil pour Tainuʻu et lever de soleil pour Taputapuatea.
Okay, so we talk about the structure, but actually where you position yourself on the structure, you are facing, in the west side, of course, the sunset. And of course, in Taputapuatea, on the east side of Raʻiātea, you'll be facing the rising of the sun.
Et évidemment, on a toujours ces créneaux qu'on a retrouvés sur Taputapuatea ici. Hein? On a un ici, et on a un ici, et il y en a un ici. Il y en a trois sur Tainuʻu.
And so we saw a slot, I guess you could say. I call it a slot because it's actually human-made. It looks like it's human-made. And we were thinking that maybe that's where a particular star or sun sets behind the walls, of course. In Taputapuatea, you only had one, but here in Tainuʻu, you have three of these particular indentations in the top. And you can see on the right image, it's kind of like, it's like you would see, you could maybe put a big piece of wood and let it sit on there if you wanted to. But they call it, anyway, that's what we call it.
Les pierres, les basaltes qu'on trouve sur ce marais viennent de la vallée de Ararua. Il paraît qu'on les a transportés en une nuit pour construire le marais.
And so the basalt stones, as you can see, it's the darker looking stones. Yeah, of course. Coral reef stones are lighter in color. Of course, oxygenation causing it all the microorganisms to leave and giving it a white appearance. But the basalt stones, which are dark in color, they came from the Valley of Devaitua, which is a little bit far away from there. And you believe that all stones were brought in one night to build the marae.
Non, je ne crois pas, hein? Mais on m'a dit, c'est la tradition orale qui m'a dit. C'est les gens de
oral tradition, yeah, they transported the stones on the back of men. In one night, they were able to build it and place it. Wow.
Et actuellement, il y a toujours encore une pierre qu'on n'a jamais pu amener en position et qui se trouve toujours dans la vallée.
Yeah, and so apparently there was supposed to be one more big stone, but it was left behind.
Parce que le jour est apparu, ils n'ont pas pu l'amener, le transporter.
Yeah, and the people who were transporting it didn't do it in time because the sun arose, and so they had to do it only at night, and they weren't able to do it.
En accord avec la tradition orale, ce marais aurait été construit par Poʻiʻiʻi.
And so according to oral tradition, this marae was built by Poʻiʻiʻi. That's the name of the building.
Il était accompagné de deux femmes. Teinuʻu marae et Teinuʻu ahu.
Okay, so Teinuʻu marae and Teinuʻu ahu, they are two women who accompanied this particular priest or Allah.
Donc, il est venu à Raʻiātea pour lier Raʻiātea et Rarotonga.
Oh, so according to oral tradition, this particular Tau'a or priest is not from Raʻiātea. He is actually from Rarotonga. So it's a Rarotongan marae builder who comes to Raʻiātea to create this marae in a sense of tying both Raʻiātea and Rarotonga.
Le marais porte le nom de Tainuʻu parce que Tai veut dire au large et Nu'u, peuple du large.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason why the name of the marae is Tainuʻu. Tai meaning the ocean or the distant horizon of the ocean, and Nu'u means people. So people from the distant ocean. And so that's why it's called that.
En accord avec une de mes informatrices des marquises, Kimitete, Félicité Kimitete.
So he got some advice, or I guess some information from Kimitete. Louise, is that correct? Louise?
Félicité.
Oh, I'm sorry, Félicité. Louise is at the Conservatoire, excuse me. Yeah, Félicité Kimitete, also a researcher, gave him some very important information.
Elle m'a dit que tous les... elle est marquisienne. Elle a dit que tous les noms commençant par Tai, comme Taiʻohae, elle c'est une marquisienne. Hein, Taiʻohae, Taipivai, Tainui, tous ces gens-là viennent de Rarotonga. Tous ceux qui portent des noms qui commencent par Tai.
Wow. And according to her research, she's from the Marquesas. And on the island of Nukuhiva, you have Taiʻohae, Taipivai, And Tainu, and so wherever you find Tai, T-A-I, you have a direct connection with Rarotonga. So for the Marquesan, they have place sites named after Tai, which of course representative of Rarotonga.
C'est pareil pour mon informatrice de Fakarava qui est décédée, hein, qui est Rosalie Tout. Elle m'a dit la même chose que tout, et ils ne se connaissent pas, hein, que tous les gens qui viennent de ce clan, des Tainuʻu, Raʻiātea, Taipari, ils ont tous l'origine de Rarotonga.
And so even from, I guess you could say, a cultural practitioner from Fakarava, her name is Rosalie Williams. She has passed away. A very, very important cultural figure in understanding and knowing oral traditions. And they have place names start also with Tai, T-A-I, and which has a direct connection to Rarotonga. But in Rarotonga, it's Kai with a K.
Yes. So bring us in the valley of, in the mountain of, ça nous amène sur la montagne de Temehani-Ute, où on trouve plusieurs structures sur cette montagne-là.
Okay, so from Tainuʻu, which is down below, we go up to the top of the mountain of the Temehani, which is near, not too far from Tainuʻu. It's a top mountain. This is very important. And so Temehani Ute. So this is a place that most people can't really go to. And they have mara structures, as you can see by these images.
Et donc, on voit c'est des petites plateformes avec des pieds dressés, mais il y en a plein comme ça.
And so that part of the plateau, as we call it, has several structures with, of course, a platform of stones and an erected stone, as you can see in this image.
Si on voit sa position, on penserait que ça, c'est Ararua. Le deuxième pied de Ta'aroa, hein? Excuse-moi.
Okay, and so if you understand their function, you would understand that when Ta'aroa places one foot in Vaearaʻi, he had to place his other foot somewhere else. And so they believe this is Ararua, the place where his other foot was placed.
Et donc, ce marais n'a pas encore été retrouvé, mais il y a de fortes chances que ce marais se trouvait dans ce secteur-là. Et on a un marais là-bas qu'on pense que c'est Ararua.
And so, of course, this image is not representative of Ararua. We're just talking about these structures that are found in this particular plateau site. But there are many, many possibilities of the other foot landing in one of those, what we call Ararua. And we may perhaps have found one in particular that made sense. Of course, it's not on Temehani Ute, it's on the regular Temehani. And it's on a road where you could go up from Pufau to Temehani.
Donc, on n'est pas, hein, on peut pas dire c'est ça, mais au moins on essaie de comprendre que le même processus de Opua doit être identique à Tainuʻu.
And so, of course, if you have Vaearaʻi and Tapuatea, so you have the mountain and then you have the ocean structures, of course, aligning, finding, of course, Tainuʻu on the ocean makes logical sense that you would have another structure in the mountain as it would reflect what you would find in Opua.
Voilà, ça nous amène à ces pétroglyphes-là que d'après les traditions orales, ce serait ça, dans la vallée de Devaitua, ce serait ça les premiers vestiges religieuses des Polynésiens.
And so here we are in the Valley of Devaitua, which is not too far from Tainuʻu. So on the west side of Raʻiātea, you have the valley, you have the district of Devaitua, and you will find these petroglyphs, as you can see. And according to, I guess you could see the traditions of the oral traditions, these particular petroglyphs will be remnants of the very first religious ceremonies or the religious sanctity. So this is a very, very important site. Okay, so we may have lost Moʻohono.
Oh, We just froze him for a little bit. He'll be back.
Yeah, small little suspension of suspense. Oh, what's going on? What is he going to say now? And you look and he's not moving. I was like, oh.
Does this look like you, Hironui? On
Pardon?
the
Yeah, it looks like a couple honu. You're right. It does look like honu. I never was able to go and see it. I wanted to, but maybe in my next trip, I'll go see these places. But I was on Timihani for a few days, and I got to see several structures, of course, and we are all still in a hypothetical sense of understanding the structures that are found there. But it was great because there's a lot of stuff still remaining to be seen. You know, everybody's so focused on Tapu Tapuata and Opua that a lot of the other sites are kind of neglected, which is nice because it keeps them pretty much safe from anybody who wants to disturb them.
You don't disturb them.
Ouais. Beaucoup de structures archéologiques, beaucoup de signification, bien sûr, ce lien avec Rarotonga, ça c'est bien sûr quelque chose d'inattendu, bien sûr. On voit bien sûr, on comprend l'importance de Raʻiātea ou Hawaii comme un peu l'origine, on pourrait dire. Mais le fait qu'il y ait un lien avec Rarotonga, ça c'est du nouveau. Hein? So I just wanted to reiterate the importance of understanding that from this research being done in the oral traditions, that we had a very important link with Rarotonga, which makes sense. It's not far away. You know, we sailed on our voyaging canoes. It took us over a couple of nights to get there, so it's very close. And to have understanding that the fastest va'a, which is called the Tainuʻu, which is of course modeled after Te Ao Tonga. That's what's of course we call it the Ranomatai style of canoes. Those were the fastest that existed at the time, and being able to navigate two nights from one island to another island, that's very close. It's the same almost from Tahiti to Raʻiātea, you know, if you go the other way. And so having that relationship with Rarotonga is something new to the storyline. You know, we've always thought of Raʻiātea being kind of like the center of all things, and now we understand that maybe Rarotonga had a very important role.
Wait, did you say Raʻiātea is two days sail from Rarotonga? Is that correct?
Pardon?
Did you say that Raʻiātea is 2 days sail away from Rarotonga?
Yes, it is. It's very close.
Yeah.
Well, when I say 2 days, that's Aitutaki. But on a good wind, on a good day wind, you can get there in 3 days max. I mean, a cruise we took, you know, that it didn't take that long to get there. So it's very close. And they also have a Tapu Tapuata in Rarotonga. You know that for sure. And so understanding, you know, Tapu Tapuata, understanding Uri and Ao, of course, Tea, Uri and Tea, also makes sense in understanding. And so Moʻohono has brought us some very great information for us to really look in deeper and not just take whatever has been said for a long time as is. As we know, more research we've done, more uncovering we find, and the more information comes out. Voilà, c'est juste encore, je vous rappelle bien sûr que ces webinaires, ce sont des recherches de personnes qui ont passé des années à faire des recherches et qui partagent bien sûr ces informations afin que nous puissions nous-mêmes continuer à faire des recherches. On se pose sur les épaules de d'autres qui sont venus avant nous et qu'aujourd'hui, avoir ces genres de nouvelles informations nous fait penser un peu d'aller plus loin dans notre démarche en fait, hein, et de ne pas juste dire OK, voilà, c'est comme ça. So I just want to share what we see from Romy, and we mentioned earlier Vaearaʻi, and he is a very important figure in Rarotonga when it comes to nonprofit, but also caretaker of Timihani, the sacred mountain. And so he's brought us some wonderful information that, of course, supports the findings of Moʻohono. So we talk about the Te Puhapa Valley in Devaitua is where you will find those petroglyphs. Yeah? And of course, looking further down, we're getting a nice, very, very important chat and discussion. And I know that Moʻohono wanted to make sure that we did have time to discuss and share. Alors, encore une fois, on attend que Moʻohono revient. Et là, il va bientôt être là. Et il voulait qu'on puisse avoir une conversation, des questions à poser. Alors, je pense qu'on va arriver bientôt à la fin de sa présentation, afin qu'on puisse au moins avoir 15 minutes, 20 minutes de discussion avec toutes les questions qui sont posées, que je vois sur Facebook, sur les messageries de Zoom aussi. So yeah, we're getting a lot of questions from our participants, I guess you could say, on Zoom and on Facebook.
Hironui, Moʻohono has returned.
Yes, so Moʻohono should be on. Hello, Moʻohono.
Oh, he went away again.
Okay, so having some technical difficulty in Tiki Stone. So
Is the weather bad there?
I'm in Huahine and it's beautiful out here. I don't know. In Tiki Stone, I don't know.
This is our challenge with being on different islands. We'll wait for you to come back. So what are the questions you asked en anglais, s'il vous plaît?
Yes. Alors, une des questions, c'était exactement où se trouve à Devaitua les pétroglyphes des tortues. C'était Christine du Château qui avait posé cette question. Alors, je pense qu'on avait déjà dit c'est dans la vallée de Puhapa. C'est Puhapa. Okay, c'est Puhapa. In Devaitua. So the question was, where can we find those petroglyphs? And it is in Puhapa Valley in Devaitua. And somebody added it's PK 14.5 on the land of Mehau. So there, you can exactly. So if in Raʻiātea, just go around the island on the west side and go to PK 14.5, call somebody there and they'll take you to the petroglyphs. Voilà. Encore merci et merci pour tous ceux qui nous participent. On a Moʻohono qui est de retour.
Ah, j'ai du mal à revenir.
Oh.
Attends, je lance
voilà. Parce que plein de discussions, parlons bien sûr de ce que tu avais dit. Moi, je lance la discussion de la relation avec Rarotonga, qui était très, très intéressant.
Attends, moi, je vais essayer de revenir sur mon PowerPoint pour finir, quoi. Ah, ça va là? Tu vois?
Oui, c'est voilà.
Attends,
Ararua,
je vais essayer de vite terminer, hein? Je vais vite terminer. Dis-leur que je vais vite terminer.
Okay, so we find out it's Tahiari, Arana Tahiari. So Tahiari is in Devaitua, and he is a guide, and he's a wonderful person to hang out with, to understand our traditions of his valley and stuff like that. So if you guys want to go and see those petroglyphs and see more things called Tahiari, who's with us tonight.
Donc, Hiro, on va essayer de terminer. On va aller sur la conclusion, comme ça, on va conclure comme ça. Si ça coupe, c'est fini la présentation, on va essayer de répondre aux questions. Donc,
so we're going to be finishing up, as we mentioned earlier, so that we give time for people to ask questions.
Voilà, donc, le Tapu-Tapu-Watatea et Tainuʻu, leur origine, il n'y a pas à dire, ça vient de Rarotonga.
Wow, so this is the statement that Paul Moʻohono believes, and of course is Tainuʻu and Tapu-Tapu-Watatea. These are Mara, and their origin is from Rarotonga. The origin.
Mais afin d'asseoir leur pouvoir, ils sont obligés d'utiliser des marais et des fénois pour construire.
Okay, and so for them to, of course, have recognition in their powers, they need stones from the Mara Ere to be built from.
Donc, c'est ça les éléments qui sont nécessaires. Là, ici, on voit un tila que l'on voit ici. Hein?
And so, of course, understanding. Okay, attends, je veux juste bien comprendre. Je dis que les personnes qui ont construit Tapu-Tapu-Watatea et Tainuʻu étaient de Rarotonga, c'est ça l'origine?
Exact. Voilà.
Oh, wow. Okay. So once again, we're reading this, as I mentioned earlier. So the builders of Tapu-Tapu-Watatea and Tainuʻu were from Rarotonga. They were priests from Rarotonga, but they needed the stones from the Mara Ere. Of course, Mara Ere Whenua, which we know is Vaearaʻi. They needed those stones to be able to build the other structures in order, of course, to have have the structures being recognized. And so
Parce
now
qu'on a,
yeah.
parce qu'on a toujours besoin du tatafenua, de l'homme de la terre pour pouvoir construire, pour pouvoir asseoir des éléments.
Okay, and so when you say the builders are from Rarotonga, but the true builders are from the land themselves. And so we need those people to build the marae. And without the marae ere whenua, you won't be able to have the help that you need to build it.
Alors, je vous ai dit qu'à Raʻiātea, il n'y avait que des to'o.
So earlier we talked about the appearance of the to'o made of ironwood, laced with fibers, coconut fiber, as you can mention, to a representation of the god in particular, if it's Oro or so. But here you have a ti'i or tiki.
Attends, je veux dire. Ce ti'i, il a été retrouvé en 1950 par le professeur Yoshi Shinoto sur la terre de Tepaumaire, of Eputuputu Tepaumaire.
Okay, so this particular Tiki Stone, which normally you wouldn't find because the to'o would have its place as representation of the gods, this was found in Oturoa in the 1950s by the archaeologist from Bishop Museum, Dr. Sonoto. So he finds in an archaeological site a stone tiki representative of the gods.
C'est le seul tiki qu'on retrouve dans les îles sous le vent.
And this is the only one so far, or the only one found in all of the Leeward Islands. It's found in Uturoa.
Pardon, île sous le vent, excuse-moi, île sous le vent.
Yeah, I said Leeward Islands.
Hein?
Yeah,
okay.
I corrected you.
Excuse-moi, ouais. Île sous le vent pour ceux qui écoutent en français. Et donc, ce tiki-là, il est très important et il est chez un ami, chez Romy.
Oh, really? And so the stone found in, of course, the Utura district remains in the district, in the place where our friend, of course, he's been chatting with us this evening. So he has a stone with him.
Et donc, ce tiki, il est très important. Mais la question qu'on se pose, comment on est passé du tiki au to'o? Quelle est à partir de quel moment, comment ça s'est passé, quel est le mécanisme, ça, on peut pas répondre.
La question qui se pose, c'est est-ce que le ti'i est arrivé de Rarotonga?
Voilà, où ça se pose,
okay,
les questions.
The question that is asked, okay, so is there an evolution from representations of the gods go from the stone conception to the to'o conception, which is, of course, wood and ironwood. When did this happen? When did this transition happen? And of course, I'm just reiterating one of the questions by Pauline. Thank you very much. Asking maybe the ti'i, is it from Rarotonga or is it originally from Raʻiātea?
On ne sait pas. On ne peut pas répondre à cette question. Hein. On ne sait pas, mais il était sur la terre sur une grande terre, une importante terre qui s'appelle Ofa et Putuputu, hein, les rassemblements du père Tepaumaire, la pierre avec le poteau central. Ofa et Putuputu Tepaumaire. C'est là qu'on a retrouvé cette pierre, à côté des pétroglyphes.
Okay, so near the petroglyphs, place Ofa et Putuputu is the name, and because of its place location, of course, brings importance to the tiki. But we can't answer the question if it is from Rarotonga originally or if it was made in Raʻiātea.
Je voulais venir sur le concept binaire, la dualité pour vraiment finir ce soir.
And the last concept or subject we would talk about is also we're bringing back binary dualism. Yeah? Binary 1, 0, binary dualism. And go ahead, please explain.
Et donc, les Polynésiens, ils croyaient, leur religion, c'est ce qui était tangible, hein? C'est ce qu'ils voyaient. Donc, le jour, la nuit, le haut, le bas, la terre, la mer, les étoiles, tout ce qu'ils voyaient, c'était tangible.
Okay. So if you understand the religion, of course, it's based on observation. Observation, what is tangible, the night, the day, the skies, the stars, and everything that's surrounding, and it is visible. Okay. And so,
Pardon, vas-y, continue, Hiro.
Non, go ahead. Vas-y.
Parce que je vais vous raconter une histoire. C'est Roux. Roux, il quitte Fakarava. Et il cherche une nouvelle terre parce que les terres étaient trop occupées à Fakarava. Fakarava qu'on appelait aussi Hawaii Anaya.
Okay, so we come to our tradition and we talk about Ru. Ru, of course, in the oral traditions of Rarotonga, very important, as Ru finds Aitutaki, it finds a lot of different places. Very, very important navigator. He is originally from Hawaii, Anai, which is also the name for Fakarava. And he leaves because Fakarava has just way too many people. And he leaves and he sails to find new land.
Il va voyager, mais pendant 4 nuits, il va y avoir du mauvais temps. Et Roux, il voit pas son étoile.
Okay, and so for 4 days straight, after leaving Fakarava, he cannot locate his star because it's just too many storms and the clouds are above, and he is lost, I guess you could say.
Et donc Roux, il voyait que sa population, les Atirous le regardaient et se demandaient comment il va faire pour nous ramener sur une terre.
And so those, of course, that he sailed with, the population that followed Roux, started, of course, to be apprehensive of the destination of where are they going to find, or how are they going to find their destination.
Roux, il a levé sa main droite, il a dit Tangaroa itititie, Tangaroa ititata, Tangaroa du haut, Tangaroa ititata du bas. Montre-moi l'étoile de Roux.
So he claims and talks about Tangaroa, iti Tangaroa, so the Tangaroa above, Tangaroa below, please show me the star of Roux.
À ce moment-là, les nuages se sont dégagés et Roux a vu son étoile.
So at that time, after,
son incantation,
the clouds, of course, disappeared and he could see his star.
Et Roux est arrivé à Etutaki. La population là-bas, ils aiment dire qu'ils sont des descendants de Roux.
Yeah. And so that's, as I mentioned earlier, of course, the story of Roux arriving in Aitutaki after this particular storm.
Et donc, cette histoire nous montre comment les Polynésiens croyaient plus à ce qu'ils voyaient qu'en leur Dieu. Leur Dieu, ils voient leur Dieu, ils ont un Dieu, mais ils croient dans les éléments qu'ils voient.
And so this, according to Moʻohono, makes you understand more in regards to the vision of the Polynesian. He had his gods, he worshipped his gods, but he was very, very, very dependent on the elements surrounding him, the environment, things that are tangible.
C'est pour ça tous les dualités, ce sont très importants dans leur concept.
And this brings the concept of duality to play.
Que ce soit la terre, la mer, l'homme, la femme, et tout ce qui va se combiner, qui s'emboîte, c'est ça leur concept, c'est ça leur croyance.
And their belief system is based on that.
L'emboîtement de tous ces éléments. Et d'ailleurs, pour terminer cette présentation, je voulais vous finir avec ce truc des Polynésiens, ce proverbe des Polynésiens qui dit « Votre passé est dans votre futur est dans votre passé ».
Okay, and so to finish up understanding duality or binary in the concept of cultural behavior of the Polynesian, ancient Polynesians, they have a saying that your future is in your past and your past is in your future.
Marururua.
Thank you very much. So we're opening up to questions.
May I ask or may I quote Puakanahele? Because
Puakanahele, yes.
He says the ATUA, they're not gods, they're elements.
Right.
Yeah.
So the difference between an element, perhaps in the ATUA, and not to be worshipped. Yeah?
Ok, alors en français, je vais dire que les études du docteur Polani Kanahele parlent justement que les ATUA, on aime bien associer ATUA à Dieu par rapport à à l'extérieur, essayant d'essayer de comprendre, mais le concept de Dieu n'est pas le même. Et que pour les recherches du docteur de Kameʻeleihiwa, c'est qu'au fait, les ATUA représentent les éléments fondamentaux.
Pas pour nous. Dis-lui, pas pour nous, parce que chez nous, je voulais, dans un PowerPoint que si jamais je présente sur Tahiti, je voulais présenter le processus de transformation d'un tupapau, comme je vous ai expliqué tout à l'heure, comment un Raʻiātea, comment une personne peut devenir un ATUA dans le système des Tahitiens. Hein, on part du tupapau, varuaʻino, oromatua, et on devient un ATUA. Hein, c'est un processus dans la mort et qu'on devient un ATUA.
So according to, I guess, the Windward Leeward Islands, the concept, of course, of the man or the Ari becoming a star or Atua, yeah, in that process. So you have several phases that he just mentioned. I didn't write it down. But you have the Varuaʻino passing on after that to another, I guess you could say, phase.
Level.
Yeah.
Level. Huh?
Level, yeah. And
if
then,
you
of
want,
course, meaning the
for
level
us,
afterwards.
For us, when you are dead, you become first a tupapau. Mm-hmm. And then after you become a varuaʻino, very powerful spirit. And then after the next level, you become an oromato. They put you inside the box and they put you inside the valley. And then after, if your clan is becoming very powerful, you become a atua. We have a process in the death. You can stay at the varuaʻino, you can stay at the tupapau, but you can become a atua too, like the process of Hiro. We have an example like this. I don't mean that element doesn't mean atua, sure, maybe, but we have another another example of rising something and becoming a atua.
We have that custom too in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And you can take the body of the Reef and we put him in the evening for 2 days. All the flesh falls off. We take the bones, we make into the casket with the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the Vailua of this Ali becomes Atua.
Yeah.
But the old Atua, the ones like Ararua, Tainuʻu, Ro'o, etc., those are, we think, are elements.
Yeah.
So the man can join the element, but the Atu are there before. They are the ancestors.
Yeah, I agree with that. No problems.
Say,
Je suis d'accord avec ça.
in your past, and your past is your future. Is that what you said?
Your future is in your past. Your future is in your past.
Yes, we have that saying too. Yeah. Ikawa mahope, ikawa mahua. Yeah, we had that saying. Oh, so interesting. Any questions from the audience? Let's see, what do we have?
So we have on Facebook, I believe, someone from Aotearoa was asking if we know the Ngati tribe of Ohomairangi. Of course, it believes that it is from Taputapuatea.
Ohomairangi?
Ouais.
What's
C'est le
the
nom
name?
du Ngati. C'est le nom du Ngati. Est-ce qu'il y a une tribu, un Ngati, un Ati de Taputapuatea portant ce nom?
C'est quoi le nom?
Ohomairangi. O-H-O-M-A-I Rangi.
Ohomairangi. Après, il y a plein de petites tribus qui disparaissent. Hein. Ce qu'on a aujourd'hui, Hiro, ce qu'on a aujourd'hui, c'est que les grandes tribus qui sont restées au moment du contact. Mais c'est sûr qu'il y a des tribus comme par exemple les To'omaru, plusieurs tribus ont disparu. On ne sait pas comment ça se fait, mais ils n'existent plus dans les traditions orales d'aujourd'hui, quoi. Mais c'est sûr qu'ils ont existé puisqu'on les retrouve dans les anciens données, hein, dans les anciennes data. Tu vois ce que je veux dire, Hiro?
Okay. So, answering, of course, Maharaya Punyata. In the oral traditions of today that we have, we don't see Mairangi. That doesn't mean they did not exist. Of course, when the missionaries or when the explorers arrived, these were the names that they wrote down because those were the prominent ati that were still on Raʻiātea. But he believes that there were many before that were displaced or had gone to places. We have an example of Tu'umaru that we find leaving Raʻiātea to come to Tahiti. Yeah, and they're not found anymore in the oral traditions of Raʻiātea, but were found in the oral traditions of the Valley of Opua, telling that they came from there. So we're not saying that it does not exist, but we don't have any oral traditions on Raʻiātea right now. We believe that holds the name of Oho Mairangi.
The other question was from Maharaya, was that her true title was Rua Muturangi. Is that a name that comes up in Raʻiātea? Rua Muturangi?
Vas-y, tu traduis, Hiro?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Rua Muturangi.
Oui.
Ah, Rua Muturangi. Est-ce qu'on retrouve dans... Ok.
Dans la tradition, oui.
Dans la tradition. C'est au fait coupé, hein? En représentation de coupé.
Oui.
Je sais pas, mais Rua Muturangi, c'est plutôt les phases de la lune, non? Hein, Rua, déjà, c'est les phases de la lune. Hein?
Ou le chemin des étoiles, je ne sais pas.
Ouais, voilà, c'est le chemin des étoiles, les chemins. Hein? Après, évidemment, c'est comme on a tous ces noms, mais aujourd'hui, tous ces noms ont disparu. Hein? Rua Muturangi, on les retrouve que, par exemple, quand on va parler des étoiles, mais c'est que des spécialistes. Le problème chez nous, à Tahiti, c'est que c'est que des spécialistes qui peuvent en parler. Et souvent, c'est pour ça les gens ils connaissent pas les histoires, c'est parce que les spécialistes ils transmettent pas. Il y a que les prêtres qui peuvent parler leur langage. Et c'est comme ça peut-être que beaucoup de choses se sont perdues avec la mort de ces personnes-là, quoi. Hein?
Okay, so we are talking about transmission of oral traditions and understanding in regards to the importance of particular oral traditions. They were only transmitted by particular people, specialists, as they would call it, toa, or priests, who are in charge of the transmission. But if those people did not, then of course we don't have that information. And so we were not able to answer all of your questions. We can relate it to a particular star or pathway of stars carrying that particular name. But as far as having oral tradition evidence or in genealogy, with those particular names, only the ones that prevailed are the ones that we have or remain. And so that is something that we need, of course, to look upon. And I honestly believe that the oral traditions of Hawaii and Aotearoa helps us to learn more about us here in Tahiti.
Hironui. On est seulement sur la création de Taputapuate et Tainuʻu. Même à Opua, les gens ils croient que c'est eux qui ont construit. C'est même ils pensent même pas à Rarotonga, à tout le reste. Ils pensent que c'est eux. Il faut creuser, il faut aller chercher dans les généalogies pour voir ça, que ces marais ont été construits par des gens de Rarotonga.
And so tonight, if people understand the information that is brought out in this presentation, many in Raʻiātea would disagree with it. And as he had mentioned, his is based on research in genealogies, and understanding the genealogies, stating that the builders are from Rarotonga. But people for example, in Raʻiātea, and maybe sometimes in the government itself, will not accept this theory, or will not accept this, because of course we have I don't want to say it's a political thing, but, if we are considered to be, the breadbasket of Polynesian civilization as being the mara that, of course, is a source of origin, and somebody comes around and says, oh no, it's Rarotonga. Of course, that puts a damper in the goals that you're trying to, as far as the heritage site being Taputapuatea. So, as I mentioned, these presentations are to help us better understand and open our minds, because a lot of things that have been written or said today needs to be checked. A lot of times we don't check it. We just say, oh, because so-and-so said it, that means it's true. Or what's written, for example, as an example, Te Ura Henry or Mara, what they was written, of course, we understand that's probably the only references that we have today of literature. But we have to understand that they could be false information too. So you have to be aware.
Donc Hiro, on a plusieurs éléments, plusieurs versions sur Taputapuatea, mais ce qui est sûr, si on se base sur la généalogie, c'est ce que je viens de dire ce soir, ça vient d'une généalogie. Ce n'est pas de moi. Hein.
Okay, so we're going to have to wrap up because I have to get going as well. People are waiting for me. And Moʻohono wants just people to understand that this research is based on genealogy. Okay, this is not him inventing something. Okay, all right, so this is information that would be difficult to accept for a lot of people who believe that, the marae were built by people from Raʻiātea, or, and according to this genealogy, there are people from Rarotonga, and that Raʻiātea had a close relationship with Rarotonga that was, of course, cut, due to colonization and other factors as well. And so, this, for me anyway, this motivates us to look further into our relationship.
More. Well, next episode.
Okay, I have to go, Lilikalā. Please excuse me.
I'll take over, just closing out. Okay, Moʻohono, can you stop sharing your screen, please? And I'm going to share my last things for.
Je vais devoir aller. Hein. Merci encore, Moʻohono. Magnifique, hein? Magnifique présentation. Et on est très heureux de t'avoir avec nous parce que là, encore une fois, tu nous ouvres les yeux. Merci. Hein? Et à tout le monde qui nous suit, encore Maruru et Marururoa, on se retrouve la semaine prochaine. Je serai bien sûr sur l'île. Bye bye. Nana.
Moʻohono,
yes.
Close out your screen. I put my screen.
You can put your screen.
This will stop. Okay, I continue. Very good. Okay, here we go. And we go all the way to the end, and we are here. So, folks, we just finished up our March 10th, number 34, Raʻiātea Temples Part 2 with Tainuʻu, Ararua, Vaearaʻi. Fabulous, fabulous. And I want to say also, mahalo nui loa to the Brand webinar team behind the scenes, Kalani Simeona, who's our tech leader, Leikulu Maka Meleisea, who is our communications liaison, Kavika Aspili, he's our lead transcriber. We're transcribing all of these webinars so that eventually you can read about it too. Of course, Hironui, our superb French translator. I want to give a shout out to Tina Ramirez, who's our fiscal administrator, Malia Nobrega-Olivera, who is our Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge Director of Community Engagement. And, of course, I'm Lilikalā. We post on Facebook, on Kanaiokana, OEV TV, on Hawaii Nui Akea. All of this is coming to you from the Kamakakua Kalani Center for Hawaiian Studies. If you'd like to support our work, you can get a tax deduction. Tax time, good time to get a deduction. Gladys Brandt, endowed chair. And then coming up next week will be Dr. Kameʻeleihiwa and Dr. Kamana'opona Crab to talk about Hawaiian temples and Alopiko Owakea. This is the March equinox. And then we're going to have Moʻohono come back after that, talk about Bora Bora and Huahine. We're having a good time here. So I just want to end with saying, here is where we are next week, March 27th, 7 p.m. Come back to the Bit.ly Brand Web. We have Dr. Kamana'opona Crab, Dr. Kameʻeleihiwa, and they will be talking to us about all the ceremonies you do, especially Ava ceremony, at this time of March equinox. So we're talking of March 19, 20, 21, 22. What happens then? Why do we do that? What does it matter? In Hawaiian, we call it Alapika o Hakea. And so we'd like to have all of you come and see about Hawaiian temples at that time. But be sure that you send me Lilikalā at hawaii.edu. Send me your questions. I pass them along to Moʻohono and he can answer for you. Okay? Aloha kako. Aloha Moʻohono. You're my hero. Thank you so much. Aloha.